Hi guys, Ninja Prav here again, and welcome to this another episode of Enterprise IT, where we bring you all this information from enterprise space. Today we got two experts from IT industry. Once again, in the blue corner we have Richard Houghton. Richard, how are you today, mate?
Hey, good buddy. Good to speak again.
Likewise, buddy. Likewise. And in the red corner, or in the other corner today, we have someone very special. We got one of our colleagues, Scotty Smidt. And before I hand over to him, I'll give a quick introduction for him. Scotty was based in the mining capital of Australia called Western Australia before he moved over to the cold and the lockdown capital of the world called Melbourne. Scotty, welcome to Melbourne and welcome to the show.
Hey guys, how are you? Just to let you know, I'm wearing my Ugg boots today. I'm always wearing my Ugg boots here in Melbourne.
Not beanie, but that's good enough.
Oh man, it's not that cold. Come on.
Not yet. I'm sitting in my garage, guys, so I've got this big jacket on to keep myself warm while I talk to these guys who are sitting in the warm, cozy lounge rooms. Richard, what are we going to talk about?
What are we going to talk about? Well, we've got Scott, right? And as you said, he's come from WA, from the mining capital of the world. So I reckon we talk about mining because I guess I've been lucky enough in some recent customer site visits, pre-COVID lockdown stuff, to visit a couple of mines. And I reckon there's some really exciting stuff going on there, some cool, well, I guess toys, some cool technology that they're getting to use. So who better to talk to about that stuff than Schmitty?
Absolutely.
Schmitty, as we know him, Scott. So
it's all right, guys. I answer to both. So Smitty or Scotty, it's up to you. It doesn't matter.
Look, as I said on the last one with Pravesh, right, the things that you answer to and other things you get up to, that's for a different video. You know?
Spot on, mate. Spot on.
So Schmitty, mate, tell us what cool stuff you're seeing in mining, because I know what I want to talk about, but I'd be really interested to get a handle on cool stuff that you've seen that you think is really neat. What they're doing that's cool.
Yeah, so I think a couple of the things that's been happening in mining over the last couple of years is automation of heavy assets. That's been a key focus of the majority of our mining customers, to make sure that they can shift their ore from site to from the mine site all the way to port the most efficient ways possible. So at the end of the day, for them, that's how they make their money, right? So
exactly.
Yeah, I mean, there's some pretty cool technology that happens around that space, and also another thing that's happened in that space too is the networks that are related to those environments. They've built some really big LTE and wireless networks out there to support that. I think some of those customers that we have the largest private LTE networks worldwide. So that's pretty interesting, Pretty cool.
It's pretty cool what they do, isn't it? Because I guess the one that I've been itching to talk about it. So I'm gonna bounce straight into it, right? It was a mine, deep mine. One of the things that they have to do is at the face of the mine, they do regular geo surveys to make sure that it's stable. Like we're talking, these guys 1,000 meters underground. Yeah. Like I'm not going down there. They invited me, and I was like, nah, negative.
It's scary, man.
I'm not doing that. I really don't know. I don't know how those boys do it, but yeah. Okay, so that aside, they have to do. It's great that they take the safety of the staff importantly. And so what they used to do though is have to like move the geosciences team down there. They would set up all their kit. They'd actually had some cool kit for that, right? They're doing like laser scans of the face, and they can work everything out, millimeter type accuracy. But what they were talking about for their future and what I was there discussing with them and we were trying to work out how we would make this work for them. They were talking about a new generation of truck that did a couple of things. One, it was likely to be electric, but from a tech point of view, it would have LiDAR on it. So as they're driving these vehicles down to the mine face, it would be scanning everything. So now they're not talking about going in every 3 months, do a scan, get the data, crunch the data, make sure the mine is safe. Now they're literally talking about doing that non-stop,
Real time, non-stop.
every time. And for me, I was like, dude, this is so cool. So Scotty, mate, you must have so many stories like that where just the stuff that they are starting to do is off its head as far as I'm concerned, some of it.
Yeah, I think it's funny how the industry's changed quite a bit. You know, if you think maybe 10, 15 years ago, you know, if you're a operator, you'd hop on a plane, you'd fly to site, and you'd put on your overalls and your high vis, and you'd rock up to the site and jump in your hauler and drive that around to 10 to 12 hours a day, and go back to your and you do that for 2 weeks straight. So you don't see your family, you don't do it, and then you fly home and you see you have that on and off kind of two on and two off, or whatever your particular scenario would be. But now it's not like that, right? I think it's it's a bit like Avatar now. The guys put their polos on like the one I'm wearing and their chinos, and they drive into the office and they sit behind a desk with massive screens and they drive these trucks remotely. So, and you're right, like there's
really?
yeah, it's all remote, mate. It's all drive by wire, especially in the a lot of the open cut mines are all drive by wire. So
Wow.
yeah, and you're right. Like they use a lot of technology in those trucks. Like if you think about it, if you're not in the truck, you need to know. If you're not the hauler, you need to know everything that's happening. Right, you need to be quite aware of all of the components. Make sure you don't have any failures. You need to make sure that they use radio technology to find out where it's driving, what the conditions are like, and all that sort of stuff as well. So it is quite fascinating, mate. I think maybe I don't know how long ago Avatar was, but we're kind of watching a movie where these guys are driving these trucks looking for unobtainium, and
that's it. That's it.
That's it.
Unobtainium.
That's a real thing.
That
actually, it actually happens.
I was going to say,
our unobtainium is iron ore.
Interesting, you touched that point, actually, Scott, because some of these equipments, like these trucks, are huge. Like we see trucks, driving down the streets here in Melbourne, and they're big, but these mining trucks are huge, like compared to even those suburban trucks. So, and obviously the latency, getting close to the truck as to get that real-time data, so it's the person who's driving it remotely doesn't make that mistake. It's like driving the Mars rover from Earth, that kind of stuff. How do you care for those kind of things? Like, how would the latency come into play? Obviously, that would be a big factor. Yeah.
So that's a pretty good question, mate. I think the most important thing for making those sorts of customer outcomes is the network. So I think a lot of those customers build very large private LTE and wireless networks. They need two different types of technology with redundancy to be able to connect all of these devices together. They're high-speed networks, and they collect a lot of data from a lot of different sources. So it's pretty cool in my opinion. A lot of them have been doing it for some of them have been doing it for almost 10 years, and others have been doing it for 5+ years.
I'm surprised I'm surprised NASA is not knocking on their doors and trying to hire them for their next rover mission.
Well, it's a bit like that. I think like I said before, some of these customers have got the largest private cellular networks globally. Judged by distance. Obviously, it's the distance that they cover, probably not the amount of people. Obviously,
it's probably Australia's got an unfair advantage there, mate. I never get over how big this island is.
Yeah, there's plenty of space out in the bush, mate. Plenty of space.
I love how you Aussies call it the bush as well, mate. It's like, mate, there's no bush. Go to New Zealand. We've got bush.
I was about to insert a New Zealand joke here, but let's leave it to the next time.
Let's we'll veer away from that. But I think you mentioned the data, right? So, like many industries, I think at the moment, data is becoming king for all sorts of stuff, right? Whether we're talking about self-driving trucks or I think that the other thing that you mentioned, but before we sort of kick this off, and again, we have a chat beforehand and try and work out what nonsense we're going to talk about today. The self-driving loco, mate. Give us the rundown on a self-driving train, like that to me as well. It's just like, God, that is cool.
Yeah, so automation on locos is pretty important. I think if you think about if you're a miner, you want to make sure that you can get your product onto a boat and to your customer as quickly as possible. So when we talk about automation for locos, that might mean a lot of different things for different customers. So that might be signaling, it might be where the trains are, how they're getting fixed, if there's parts on them that are about to fail, or predictive maintenance and all those sorts of things. So when you talk about automation, you talk about everything together. So maybe the operator of old was the guy that drove the train. Now it's the operator who's on the train now is more of an engineer. He knows all of the systems, and he knows how to use all of the systems, and he knows what to look for and how to optimize that as well. And obviously all of that information bubbles up into a wider operations team that gets a lot of the information that you talk about from lots of different systems. You might be talking about from rail management and signaling to the logistics information of how much is getting transported where, and also the asset information, if it's running hot, if it's going to fail, if it needs to be fixed, how do we fix it? That's all of this stuff is quite important if you want to be able to run a 24-hour operation across the board. So I think that data, integrating that data is the most important bit, and that is the bit that gives our customers the edge. It gives them the competitive edge against their competitors, obviously, and creates more revenue for the product that they have. And also there's other heavy assets on site that improve the product as well. So you might be talking about different grades of ore and how they market that to their customers as well. So now the secret sauce is, how do you get all of that information together and do integration across all of that stuff into one space, so an executive can make a decision to, if he's going to make an investment at that site, or if he's going to sell a product for a certain value. So that's the secret sauce, and that's where we come in and help the customers. So yeah, it's pretty good.
So I guess there are a couple of things I took from that, right? First of all, whoever drives the train now isn't really a locomotive driver. They're an IT engineer. Almost, right?
Well, that's a good way to look. I think, mate. That's a good way to look at it. They're people that understand the software systems that run on these different platforms, and they're from a lot of different vendors too, right? So they need to be skilled up, and they need to understand these different software systems that at that layer. So yeah, you might have one that, like I mentioned, you got one that does signaling. You might have another one that monitors the actual train and how well performing that particular asset's performing, and when it needs to be maintained is very important. They're very expensive assets. They've really got to make sure that they're running 24 hours a day so they can get the best bang for buck out of them. So yeah, it's pretty interesting stuff, mate.
The best takeaway for me in this case is what I've been telling my wife for years. The train simulator game that I play on Xbox, that's really going to help me someday to drive that automatic.
Are you trying to justify getting the latest Xbox here, Pravesh?
That's it, man. That's it. Yeah, you're gonna find an excuse for something,
Yeah, no, fair enough. I'm all for it, mate. No, definitely.
I'll just show her this video.
So I guess the huge challenge there, and Schmitty, you sort of mentioned it there, right? There's a lot of different systems involved here. So one of the big things is now, and again, whilst I don't think this is unique to mining, maybe the challenges they face because of the environment they're in, and the what do you call it? How freaking far away they are from a cafe where they can buy a latte.
Yeah.
They're in the middle of the bush. That's right, in the bush.
Yeah. And those lattes
But
aren't
this,
like they are here in Melbourne, mate. Let me tell you.
no, mate, no.
Just
That's
think,
Melbourne.
just
You
think
know,
warm mud.
we might be locked down at the moment, and we're not allowed out of our houses after 8 and everything. But yeah, at least we can still get a good latte.
Yeah.
So they've still got to try and work out how to bring all that data together from a whole bunch of different disparate systems, like you said, or different. Forget the word systems. Different vendors, right? Like you got a locomotive vendor that might be providing a whole bunch of information on that locomotive, like you said. There's another vendor provides some system on scheduling the locomotives. But for it all to be really useful, they've got to try and smash all that stuff together, right? And am I right?
Ingest all that data. Yep.
I'm guessing here.
Yeah. So that's obviously the secret sauce, right? And that comes down to that's what we call vertical integration. So we want to make sure that we understand all of those all of the information that comes from each of those vertical systems.
Yep.
We integrate them all together into another, hopefully a business system that be able to consolidate all that information for the executives to understand exactly what's happening across all of their assets, across all of their sites. So that's what we're seeing now. That's the biggest change. I suppose that's the transformation that these customers are going through. So while some of them are just looking at individual automation on particular mine sites, others are looking at the wider operations and how they use automation to fix actual end-to-end business problems, not just specifically one thing, like
Exactly.
So for that, if we sort of think about it from our terms, and when I say our, I mean Dell EMC. So what I hear there is, man, they must need, as well as a lot. I'm trying to think of an adjective there that wasn't going to be a swear word. As well as needing a lot of horsepower in those locomotives to actually move the product, the amount of compute grunt that they must need. Are you seeing that changing a lot? And as a secondary to that as well, GPUs and any of that AI, ML, deep learning type compute stuff happening at site, at those mines now?
Yeah, so probably the first thing that's a little bit different is the conditions that these systems run in. Like, the operating ranges are quite extreme, and the I don't know if you've been anywhere up to any of those sites, but mate, the dust gets everywhere, gets into all of the devices, all of the systems. So traditionally, where we would use where a customer would use a traditional switch or a more of a networking type product like a router or all that sort of stuff, they are starting to look at next generation edge platforms which are resilient and that can run in very high operating ranges and that have all of the storage requirements and all of the accelerators and network offload and all of those sorts of things to be able to provide next generation
into the device.
Next generation software. Like you see in the data center, it's not a Windows thing anymore. It's a container, and you don't have one of them. You've got 15 of them or 30 of them, and they all need to coexist together. And that's exactly what's happening. You see these vendors, these big vendors that provide all the software for these trains, these locos and haulers and all of these heavy assets as they're moving to containers, because that's just how you design new software now. So that's another big challenge, right? So where you've had traditional guys that would build have one or two servers, and those servers aren't traditionally designed for that sort of environment. We're now moving to, we're not running a server that's just running a Windows workload here or there. It's kind of moving to a container, and it's not just wanting that one bit of that container to run that one type of outcome for that customer. They might have 30 or 40 of them that run lots of different things, and you know, those software vendors are releasing updates instead of doing it once every, I don't know, 3 years like they used to. They do it once every 3 months now. So you really need a really flexible framework at the back end, right at where the data's getting created, so they can, so the software vendors can provide more functionality immediately to those customers on site. So yeah, it's quite a fast-paced industry. I think sometimes we think mining is not very fast-paced, but I don't know. I think our mining customers, especially the big ones, they've done Industry 4.0 10 years ago. Like they're going into Industry 4.5 now. They're well ahead of the game. Like, you know, absolutely. Some of our other industries, they're only just thinking about this stuff, and those guys have been doing it for years. Like,
been doing it heaps, right? And this is something that Pravesh and I have spoken about on previous enterprise IT vlogs that we've done. We've talked about this automation stuff. So again, I think as you're just saying there, Schmitty, like these guys have been doing automation before it was a cool thing, before it was DevOps, right?
Correct.
Yeah, they do it. When you do automation at an operational level, it's a little bit different. They're talking about automating an entire business process rather than a technology process, which is, you know, it's a little bit different. But you're right. The software development thing is absolutely now coming in to provide more value in that process. So moving away from waterfall and moving into that agile type software development framework provides much more flexibility for the customer. So you're exactly right. There's kind of those two different mindsets of IT and OT are definitely coming together, and that is actually a big thing that's happening too. So those software vendors in the back end are what we call our OEM partners. So we do a lot of hardware certification on software for their software platforms for those partners that we have.
So now you're talking about those verticals again, right? So you're talking about an OEM partner for one of the verticals.
Specifically for this one would be for mining. So we've got, you know, a couple of very big partners we work with. Honeywell's a really big one. Schlumberger is another one. That's an oil and gas partner, OEM that we work with, and Rockwell is another big one as well. And there's a few others, right? There's quite a few. There's lots. So there's Siemens and Bombardier as well. So there's lots. There's lots and lots of partners.
So they've got their vertical application, I'll call it, that we talked about before, that provides a system that does something within, I'll say just generally the mine.
Yeah.
And then those OEM partners, as they are to us as Dell EMC, have certified their application to run on top of our kit.
Yeah, that's right. So we not only do we do it on server, we do it on server, networking, and storage products. So and those products are uniquely certified for those operating conditions I talked about. So a lot of them have very high operating ranges. They're customized for those types of solutions. So even some of them are NEBS compliant as well, like, you know, for telco. So it means that we can put a HCI or a server into a comms cabinet and it will operate at 50 degrees, like no problems at all. So,
and as we actually just learned, you know, very recently for us on a call that we had internally, we've got even more stuff coming out in that space again, particularly aimed at that harsh environment where we need a lot of not just compute, but as you mentioned before, Schmitty, right? It's just not just CPU, but storage and GPU or some sort of acceleration technology, all bundled into a highly dense, highly resilient package.
Very, very good point you brought up, Richard, because that's something we can certainly look into, bring into one of our future videos. And
I think once the NDA is lifted on that product, sort of mentioning there, I reckon,
we'll come back next time for that one.
It's cool, right? I think, you know, and it's not far away. Where are we now? This vlog is gonna drop early August. It's not too far away that the product that we're alluding to will be popping out. But anyway, we won't talk too much about product because then everyone starts getting bored on this stuff. We just keep on talking about all the cool, funky stuff that these guys are doing, I reckon. So, man, we covered off some cool locos. I've talked about some crazy trucks that drive themselves. What other unique, like just crazy stuff have you seen at those mines or any of those sites that you've been to, mate?
Mate, I think, the mine automation stuff, like drive-by-wire and stuff like that I reckon is pretty damn cool. Like, I just, like maybe I need a change of career, mate. Maybe I go wear a different polo with a different name on it. Here it is, just here. And maybe I could, be like one of those guys that drive those big trucks and stuff. That'd be right. That would be good fun, I reckon.
On those trucks, and
no more fly in, fly out, mate. Bugger that. No, we'll just
no FIFO. Just do it from home.
Yeah, that's it.
Hey, so Prav mentioned before, right, that the trucks we're talking about here are not the things that we see trundling down the road, bringing our coffee beans to the cafes so that we can have lattes here in Melbourne. We're talking monsters.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you know the answer to this. I'd read this, and this intrigued me. I was reading about how they, as part of that optimization of bits and pieces, and this is, I guess, a bit pre, the drive-by-wire stuff you're talking about, still talking about having a carbon-based life form sitting in the cab, but they were using GPS to help these guys drive the trucks more efficiently, and, everything about what they do is just efficiency to the nth degree. But they started getting a problem because they were getting these GPS guided trucks now. They're literally putting a groove in the road that these trucks are driving up all the time. So they had to actually program in some leniency so that everyone wasn't just creating this track. Now, is that real, or was that just some nonsense I read online, or do you know?
Well, it's probable, mate. Like, obviously, I think like GPS tracking we've had for a little while in heavy machinery. So I think we've been using it in farming for quite a while. So I think it's accurate.
You're a farmer as well, mate. Man, you're a man of
He's a farmer too, yes.
I like big things, mate. I'm from WA, all right? Anything big? Yeah, I like it. It's got big wheels.
When you have half the continent to yourself, you gotta find things to do, and mining and farming, both of those things need a lot of land.
Yeah,
so,
yeah,
of course.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay.
That's about.
I'm just from New Zealand, mate.
That's about all you do in Perth, all right? You just you grow stuff or you dig it out of the ground. That's about it.
That's it.
That's how we sell it. That's how we sell Australia a ton at a time. Either it grows out of the ground or we dig it out.
Fair enough, mate. Fair enough.
That's funny.
Excellent.
Oh, okay, guys. Let's. That was some really good conversation that we had today with Scott and Richard. Scott, thank you so much for coming to today's session. Are there any final information, final thoughts that you want to share with us, or final takeaway that you want to share with us before we close today's session?
Yeah, mate. Look, appreciate you guys having me on and hearing my, having a good chat about what's happening in mining. It's been really interesting. It's been great. So
it's some cool stuff, mate.
Yeah, I think,
it was really good. Yes.
The thing that really interests me right now is to see what's going to happen with, these new next generation, cloud native workloads that these OEM partners that are building that I mentioned. That's really key. I think it's really key for them to deliver the right outcomes for their customers, obviously with the help of people like us. And the other thing is 5G is almost here, and I think that you'll find that these types of technologies we're talking about now, like I said, mining's been doing Industry 4.0 for a while now. I reckon they're doing 4.5. I'll coin that. Industry 4.5 for mining.
Trademark.
They're doing just invented a new term, but
Industry 4.5.
4.5. So, mate, when once we start getting these 5G type technologies out there, it's really, really going to accelerate the adoption of these new types of workloads at Edge. So, mate, it's really exciting. It's a really exciting space to be in.
that 5G stuff, that has potential to be quite transformative for a number of industries. But yeah, I see what you're saying about mining, particularly where they are remote, and now with that change in construct, as you mentioned, cloud native, Kubernetes, containerized type stuff, and being able to get that edge compute updated with whatever changes those OEM partners are pushing down. It's awesome. I think there's a lot of really cool stuff coming.
Yeah, mate. It's pretty exciting, mate. I wouldn't give it up for anything. So it's
no. We
except
work in
farming.
a cool industry.
And now I don't have to go to the dirty place. I can just do it by Zoom too. So it's even better.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
I just got to avoid the virus.
Yes. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. I think we're all working on that.
Yeah.
Well, thanks a lot for spending some time with us.
No worries. Really appreciate
Yeah,
the
likewise.
time, guys. It's been great.
That was fun.
Yeah, that was fun. Absolutely. Thank you, Scott, and thank you, Richard, once again for this week's banter that we had again in Enterprise IT. Guys, if you're watching this on YouTube or one of the other channels, I would highly appreciate if you could like this video and share the word around with your colleagues and friends so more and more people can benefit from all these information that we are spreading out in the world for free. And we hope to see you in our future videos. Until then, see you next time.
Take care.
See you
Thanks,
later.
everyone.
Bye-bye.